Well, this is what's going on right here. I am on DeSoto Street in Natchitoches. This is only one of the damages that is being caused by Hurricane Laura. This is a car, obviously, but let me just show you guys. This house belongs to an elderly man named Mr. Boone, and as you can see, a tree ended up coming down onto his home. He is an elderly man that actually used to work for Western, or he used to be a professor for the school. But I'm going to take you guys back here really quick just to put into perspective, as you guys can follow me back here. This is what ended up happening. This tree back here ended up falling all the way down inside his home, and it caused extensive damage. And that's what's going on right now. The man is okay. He had lacerations onto his arm. The neighbors are taking care of him across the street. His daughter actually just pulled up. She was telling me he was a sweet old man who was very devastated about his home.
All right, Jade, and has this just sort of been the consistent scene there in Natchitoches, or is this kind of more of an outlier?
Well, we did talk to some other people before when we were talking to a gentleman who had his car stuck in the water. He's saying that everyone here in Natchitoches is saying that this is consistent all over the parish, basically.
All right, Jade, thank you. Stay safe out there as you continue to cover the storm. Now, we're already getting more reports of damage from Hurricane Laura around the Shreveport area. Area Bird is live at a home on Ratcliffe Street. And Zai, what are you seeing out there?
Brad, that's right. We have a lot of damage here from Hurricane Laura. Now, this tree fell on this home just a little bit earlier this morning, just a little after 8:30. As you can see, I just talked with a family member. He said that this tree actually fell over the dining room and the kitchen area. And the person that lives inside of this house was a woman. Now, she was able to make it from outside of the home very safely, but she did have some injury. She had a head injury, but thankfully she didn't have a fracture. But according to family member, they say that she does have a hematoma. But this tree not only just fell onto the kitchen and the dining room area of this home, it also fell into a car that looks like was moving and actually coming up to this stop sign. Now, as you can see, this tree has caused major damage that looks very unrepairable for this home. As you can see, the home is crumbled on the side of the yard here, and right now, Hurricane Laura, the winds are still picking up, the rain is still coming down. The wind seems to keep getting harder and harder, but it kind of takes breaks in between of when it does, and then the rain kind of has its spurts, so when it wants to get hard as well on coming down. So if you do plan to come out here today, please be safe. Don't come if you don't have to. Please stay inside. Reporting live from Shreveport, I'm Area Bird, NBC 6 News. Brad.
Now, Zai, we're seeing people out there, out and about, walking around. Saw some people over your back shoulder. They're taking some pictures of that damage. How can you exactly explain what you guys are feeling out there? Has it sort of calmed down from what it was, about an hour or so ago?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part, Brad? I'm sorry.
Has things calmed down since about an hour ago? You are seeing people, they're walking out and about there in your live shot.
Yes. So yes, things have seemed to kind of calm down a little bit. The rain and winds, not so much, but a lot of people and a lot of neighbors have been actually driving past, stopping to take pictures of the damage. It's something that you probably wouldn't have kind of expect to see this much damage from today, but this is kind of what Hurricane Laura is actually bringing to our area. A lot of family members and friends and neighbors are coming through trying to help and clean up. As you can see, that tarp is there that was put up by some friends and family members and even neighbors. And even this morning, after kind of when everything happened, before we got out here, what we were told is that if you can see it in the grass, neighbors actually wrote the word love with a heart, just kind of showing some care and kindness to this family right here.
Good to see that there from the neighbors in that neighborhood. All right, Zai, thank you. Well, a large chemical fire has sent a dangerous cloud over Lake Charles, Louisiana, hours after the eye of Hurricane Laura passed directly over the city. Governor John Bel Edwards says the fire was burning just outside of the city, and he's advising storm survivors to shelter in place. Edwards tweeted that people, quote, in the Westlake, Moss Bluff, Sulphur area should close their windows and doors and turn off their air conditioning units. Well, we are starting to get a look at some of the damage that has been sustained in South Louisiana, and this is a look at Lake Charles when the storm was passing through earlier this morning. When it made landfall, Hurricane Laura was blowing gusts up to 150 miles an hour. Now you can see parts of this hotel there in Lake Charles being damaged, parts of the roof flying off of that hotel due to those high gusts of wind there in Lake Charles. Now in neighboring Sulphur, Louisiana, you can also see here in this next video toppled trees in pretty much everybody's yard there in that neighborhood. Going to take a lot of cleanup there over the next days and possibly weeks to clean up those areas. Also seeing some flooding earlier this morning in parts of those areas there in Sulphur, Louisiana. Now, it's only the 10th storm in recorded history to hit the U.S. at 150 miles per hour. Hurricane Laura made landfall just after midnight in Louisiana, killing at least one person. Chris James has the latest.
Under the cover of darkness, Hurricane Laura stormed central Louisiana with wind gusts over 120 miles per hour and heavy rain for more than an hour in Lake Charles, damaging buildings and sending debris flying. In the daylight, the widespread destruction can be seen.
We have hurricane strength winds still associated with the storm as it moves north, and it's still causing damage, power outage, and so forth. I will tell you that the damage is extensive.
Laura hit the area as a Category 4 storm. Mandatory evacuations were in place for central Louisiana residents, but that didn't stop some from riding out the storm.
One family I talked to at 3:30 this morning, 50 miles from the coast, as they felt their roof being lifted up, said they will never ride out another storm, and hopefully they're safe as well. So we know some people stayed, and we hope no one lost their life.
FEMA says it will quickly get on the ground to start assessing damage. In the meantime, they have a message for residents.
Keep your family safe, right? If you're in a safe place, don't go outside until you hear the all clear from your local officials. Stay out of the water. Stay away from down power lines. Again, this can be a dangerous part of the storm, even after it passes.
Laura will continue to weaken as it moves inland, but will remain a flood threat through the weekend before exiting the East Coast. I'm Chris James reporting.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. Louisiana Governor's Office says a 14-year-old girl was killed when a tree fell on her home. More than 400,000 people in Louisiana are without power, and another 120,000 without power in Texas. And it could be days, even weeks, before it's restored. Well, time now for a live look from our Louisiana DOTD traffic cam. We will have more on the Hurricane Laura after the break.
I'll just do it. You tell me. I'll set things up. Where is it at? Oh, welcome back to our coverage of the passage of what is now Tropical Storm Laura, as the National Hurricane Center downgrading the storm to a tropical storm right now. Maximum sustained winds sitting at 70 miles per hour, as Laura is now located about 50 miles east-southeast of Shreveport. That puts it over the eastern sections of Bienville Parish right now, making its way towards the north-northeast. So again, the center about ready to pass Interstate 20. The northern part of what's left of the eye wall is moved north of Interstate 20, and this is actually where the worst of the winds and rain likely occurring right now, just to the north and east of the Arklatex. Notice that we do still have a few bands which have the capability of producing some wind gusts that may exceed 50 miles per hour as we go through the rest of the afternoon. But we clearly have seen the worst already in Shreveport. As the center continues to move to our north, we will see conditions improve here. Notice we do still have a few bands which are rather persistent and producing the moderate rain here across parts of East Texas, as you can see, extending from Linden to Jefferson down to Marshall. Texarkana, we have seen a band move through your area recently. You might have seen a little bit of an uptick in the winds as a result of that. Further to the west, you can see that we are looking at a bit of a break as the back edge of the rain not really making much progress towards the east, and we will see conditions remain rather quiet there in that particular part of the area. Now, as far as the wind, we have seen the strongest winds earlier this morning. As we look at the peak winds that we've seen across the Arklatex, you can see that so far 66 miles per hour in Shreveport, 59 miles per hour in Mansfield, 34 miles per hour so far in Texarkana. But as again those bands move further to the north, might see especially further to the north, definitely we'll see a higher wind gust into Queen later on this afternoon, as we'll see the main focus of the stronger winds continue to shift to the north. And going through the nighttime hours tonight, as we look at the latest from Futurecast here, you can see that we will see the again moving into the morning. This is the storm from this morning, but as we head into the afternoon, notice the darker reds and purples here shifting into the northern sections of the region, as we've already seen most of the rainfall basically begin to be situated across the northern parts of the Arklatex of the storm circulation. Southern part of the region, we've seen the rain decrease dramatically, and that's something that likely will continue as we go through the afternoon. Again, the worst will be pretty much over for all of the area, and then we'll see Laura move out. Still a possibility for a few bands of rain to form tonight that we'll have to keep an eye on. And then tomorrow we'll see some sunshine in the mix, and there's a possibility we could see some scattered showers and thunderstorms here and there across parts of the Arklatex. Futurecast indicating that could develop basically over East Texas and northwest Louisiana. This activity would wrap up, and then Saturday looks to be a partly cloudy and hot day with temperatures warming back up into the middle 90s across much of the area. Now, as far as the rainfall, we've seen across most of the Arklatex, most of the rain that we're going to see here. As we give you a look at the latest rainfall total estimates from Pinpoint Doppler, and you can see that as I show you those numbers, we are looking at again the heaviest rain here across parts of the far southeastern sections of the area. This area of red is where the radar is showing upwards of 4, 5, and 5.5 inches. Notice in Shreveport we're closing in on 2 inches. The heavier rain shifting into south central Arkansas. Also notice we had thunderstorms yesterday which have actually dropped more rain than what we've seen so far from Laura across the far northern sections of the area. This is actually here from thunderstorms that we experienced yesterday. And keep in mind, we're rather fortunate that the heaviest rains associated with Laura probably will stay to the west of these areas. Now, we do still have a flash flood watch which is in effect for parts of the Arklatex. As we look at that watch, they have Weather Service has trimmed a few counties over the western sections of the area, and it does look like again the main threat for the flooding also has shifted to the east. This is all we have as far as flash flood warnings right now until 4:15. This one for the north central sections of Louisiana. That includes Clayburgh Parish and parts of Bienville Parish. It is in effect until 4:15. But the flash flood warnings that we had earlier for Caddo, Bossier, the northwestern parts of northwest Louisiana here have expired and will not be extended as the rain again continues to wrap up. So again, the flooding, it looks like the main concern will be over the far northeastern edge of the Arklatex here moving forward. While we're here, let's take a quick look at the view from meteorologist Jesse Kelly in the Shreveport Thunder Truck. If we have, obviously we have lost the signal from that, but nonetheless, that's pretty much the weather picture that we have across the area as we're looking at, again, the brunt of the rainfall. The heaviest rain is probably coming to an end over the north and eastern sections of the area, and we'll see conditions continue to improve basically from southwest to northeast as the center of Laura now over the eastern sections of Bienville Parish. It has been downgraded to a tropical storm, and it will continue to work its way into southern Arkansas and will move out of the Arklatex as we go into the evening hours this evening. So that's the latest on Laura and its trek through the eastern sections of the Arklatex. We'll be back with more news and weather coming up in just a few minutes.
Welcome back. We are continuing to coverage Hurricane Laura as it makes its way through the Arklatex here. One of our reporters is standing by with more. Dalford Jones gives us a look at the damage in Lake Charles. Dalford?
Dalford Jones here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. What you're seeing there is the Golden Nugget Hotel and Casino. Slight damage on the sign, but we want to show you some of the things that we heard from inside. Even while we were outside, we saw some of these trees go down. Smaller trees like these, some of them were uprooted, others are just toppled over and they may be able to be replanted. We saw this mattress circling around the parking lot last night. This is its final resting place. You can see a lot of this insulation, this material here has been stacked up. Cleanup efforts are already underway here in Lake Charles. The mayor had been working to get volunteers and other crews organized so they could start cleaning up as early as possible. Now, something that was a bit scary last night, we could hear the shattering of glass after we heard big pieces of tin like the one you see here hitting against these windows. Here's some of the evidence of that. You can see where it rubbed up here and created a big scratch right along this glass. But that's not the worst part. Here we can see some of the broken glass on the ground. That's from this window over here. Now, we heard this one begin to shatter around maybe 1:30, 2 a.m. And to come outside and see it, that's exactly what we saw. It's a double pane window, and the outside pane broke. The inside one is fully intact. Over here under the awning is where we did most of our work from while we were active Tuesday night into Wednesday morning until around 1 a.m. when winds really picked up upwards of 100 miles an hour, and hotel staff had all of the media teams, even some of the the people who are rooming at the hotel move indoors because they fear that it would get dangerous, and rightfully so. If you take a look up at the lights, you can see where some of the pieces are missing. There were large pieces of plastic, like some of the ones that are still there, that came crashing down last night. Some of them still in solid pieces, so if you could imagine how thick that piece of plastic is, those came crashing down, and they're scattered about throughout this entrance area. So one of the reasons that we went indoors, and rightfully so. Debris, one of the major reasons for concern and causes of injury during severe weather. In Lake Charles, Dalford Jones.
All right, Dalford, thank you. Now, we are expecting press conferences from both Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards. Governor Abbott's press conference will come after he finishes touring damage there in southeast Texas. We do know Governor Edwards' press conference set to begin at 1 o'clock. Now, stick around. We will have more coverage of Hurricane Laura after the break. Welcome back. We're continuing to monitor Hurricane Laura as it makes its way through the Arklatex. Now, damage reports are starting to come out from the Lake Charles area after Hurricane Laura moved through that location. Now, Dana Winter is in Lake Charles with a look at the storm's wake. Dana.
We're seeing several large pieces of debris on the ground here. This big piece of metal, we're told by a person who works at the hotel, came off of the neighboring hotel and flew all the way over here. Now, that neighboring hotel is what we want you all to actually look at. Take a look over at the hotel next door. We're seeing exposed beams as we look at the corner over there, and also some more debris kind of laying on the ground that came from that hotel. And as we look at the ground here where we're standing right on the side of the Golden Nugget, we're seeing screws. It's one of the things that people from the hotel warned us about as we make our way out here. There are several screws and nails all over the ground, so people need to be careful as they do make their way out to assess the damage. Reporting in Lake Charles, I'm Dana Winter. Back to you.
All right, Dana, thank you. Now, we do have crews tracking Hurricane Laura across the state of Louisiana and the Arklatex. We will have more from them as we continue our track of Hurricane Laura. Stay with us.
That's good. Okay.
My mic is on. You should have it. Yep. Josh doesn't have a mic. Well, welcome back as we continue to track Laura as it makes its way across the eastern edge of the Arctic. So the latest advisory, which was about a half an hour ago from the National Hurricane Center, did downgrade Laura to a tropical storm. Maximum sustained winds at 70 miles per hour. The storm is at that advisory just a little bit to the east of Shreveport and will be soon moving out, at least the center, moving out of our viewing area into north central Louisiana. You can clearly see that the heavier rains and perhaps the stronger winds are also beginning to move out of our viewing area here into the south central sections of Arkansas. We have seen a dramatic decrease in the rain across the southern half of the Arctic, which again received the worst of the wind earlier today, as we did have a gust in Natchitoches that approached 70 miles per hour. We did have a wind gust in Shreveport that topped out at 66 miles per hour. Zoom in here and kind of show you where we are looking at the heaviest rain right now. And it was this cluster right in here is where we've seen some of the stronger gusts here during the course of the morning. And notice that that does extend now up towards Magnolia. Some pretty good rains right now and probably some gusty winds in the Haynesville area. Notice further to the east we have a band which is recently moved through Texarkana. It's now rotating back down towards the west, so you might see a little bit of an uptick in the wind here across northeast Texas, but nothing that should cause too many widespread issues for that particular part of the region. And you can see a little bit of something to point out to you is that the back edge here, we're now starting to see some motion towards the north and east, so it's very possible that the light rain that we have now in Shreveport will gradually begin to wind down as well and totally come to an end as we move through the next couple of hours. And to be honest with you, we really did dodge a bullet, as it looks like instead of moving a couple days ago, the forecast track was for Laura to move right over Shreveport, maybe even a little bit to the east, but it looks like it has missed Shreveport a good 60 miles to the east and has moved across the eastern sections of Bentonville Parish, and that has made a big difference in the magnitude of the wind gusts that we've experienced. Now, obviously, we still have numerous trees down across the region, more than 100,000 people without power across just Louisiana alone, and just in the SWEPCO service area. So again, still some issues, but it actually could have been much, much worse. Let's give you a look at the rainfall that we've received so far. Again, most of the flash flood warnings that we've had across the area have been canceled. The only location where we do have flash flood warnings is basically here across the northeastern edge, closer to those heavier rain bands across the southern sections of Laura's, or southern sections of that large rain shield. You can see the swath of the basically 5 to 6 inches of rainfall, which is gradually moving northward here. And you can clearly see where the heaviest rain and where the track of Laura has taken here, with the center basically taking this course and the heavier rains near and to the east of that center's path. And notice hardly anything as far as rain over the western edge of the Arctic, and it's probably going to stay that way. So it looks like for the vast majority of the Arctic, we have seen the worst that we are going to see here from Laura moving forward. So a quick look at Futurecast here, and then I'll send it over to Josh. That we are looking at again the center down here this morning has made its way towards the north and east into the eastern edge of the area, and you can see the decrease in the rain, which will continue to take place from southwest to northeast as we go through the evening hours, as we'll see the rain continue to wrap up and the wind very, very slowly begin to decrease as we go through the evening hours. And for a look at what's happening around the Arctic WeatherCam network and again, rainfall issues, let's send it over to Josh. Josh?
It looks like last check, just SWEPCO, 111,000 power outages, so quite a few power outages out there. It may take crews a little while to get out there and clean some of this up. And keep in mind, we did hear from some of the state troopers earlier saying that we've also had reports into the damage report room here that we are seeing some of those power lines get entangled with trees. So if you have a tree down in your neighborhood, just be very careful as you do approach it, just in case we do have some live wires out there. But it looks like this is transitioning more from weather occurring to more of a kind of a cleanup issue here in the next few hours, as we're starting to see some of the watches, the warnings, and things slowly get lifted across the region. You saw Shreveport, cameras still shaking a little. We still have some gusty winds. Winds are switching around for you folks in Marshall. You've had a persistent north and northeast wind. It is switching around to the northwest as that center kind of crosses over Interstate 20. Eventually, these winds will switch directly out of the west, and then by tonight, the winds will be out of the southwest. So that means the humidity coming back behind this system as we move through the day tomorrow. May even hopefully see a little bit of daylight break out there in Marshall, maybe a little sun later today if we can get Laura to leave here quick enough. Again, a few of our parishes removed from the tornado watch. Doesn't look like we'll see any of that activity today, but if you are traveling I-20 back towards Jackson, maybe over towards the Monroe area, we do have some bands that could produce some tornadoes in those locations. This Weather Service, again, starting to trim back some of the flash flood watches that we currently have. So the watch down along the coast has been lifted as Laura moves inland. Our flash flood warnings that were in effect until 12:15 for Caddo and Bossier parishes, those have been allowed to expire, as well as the flash flood warning down in Sabine and Natchitoches parishes. So currently the only warning that we have goes until 4:15 this afternoon. That is for Bienville and Claiborne parishes. And again, with the rain pushing up into Arkansas, we could see still a little bit of rain here that could cause some flooded roadways across Arkansas. And I think that's primarily where we would see any wind or water related issues for the next hour or two. But as Todd had mentioned, that storm moving off to the northeast, so that's rapidly going to carry the flood threat as well as the wind threat away. But again, a lot of debris still out there on some of the roadways, so be careful if you are kind of driving around out there throughout the day. We'll have more news for you, another check of what's going on across the region. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yeah, no, I couldn't hear y'all. I just heard the newscast. Well, I'm on 3, so I'm on 3. All right. Come on, let's get back in front. Let me hang up with you. This battery's about to die. Hopefully if we're at the top of the show, but no one's telling me the time.
Welcome back to our coverage of Hurricane Laura as it makes its way through the Arklatex. Jay Jackson is joining us live in Natchitoches.
That's right, Jay Jackson. You've been there all day. We see that your camera screen is wet. Is it raining again out there?
It is raining out here, guys. I am right here at Lake Sibley, and as you can tell, the winds are coming this way, pushing this way. We even saw some birds trying to fly towards the direction of the wind, but they couldn't even fly without being pushed back. And here at Lake Sibley, you can see just how the waves are kind of pushing and going, and they're almost even as tall as the bridge up here where people are traveling.
All right, Jay, we see how close you are to the waterways. Are you actually on the bank and the water has risen and coming towards you, or are you just real close to it?
Well, no, close. I'm here at the bank of the river. I'm here at the bank of the lake, you guys. And we can how much the water has risen, or you can just tell how much the water is rising.
You know, we can obviously hear it and see it there on the screen. What does that wind feel like? How hard is it blowing out there?
As hard as it can with my hair. I believe, I'm not too sure how many miles per hour the wind is blowing, but it's enough to kind of make it feel very uncomfortable if you were out here.
All right, Jade, thank you. Stay safe out there.